welcome once again to another episode of the Horizon Roundtable. I am Bob McDonald, and you can find me on Twitter at Bob McDonald. And filling in for Jimmy Lemke, my co-host, who normally you can find at Panther U, Carrick Jones.
How's it going?
And Carrick, of course, we can find you on Twitter, Carrick_Jones?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty. And you can always follow the podcast on Twitter at Horizon RT. And Carrick, thank you for joining us, filling in for Jimmy. We're getting down to the wire here with the non-conference games, mercifully. Because it has been massively brutal for the Horizon League.
Yeah,
and it's just it's been one of those non-conference seasons where you were hoping everybody was going to do way better than they did, and nobody is.
Nope.
And it's we're living in the upside down, basically. For those of you who watch Stranger Things, you know what I'm talking about. If not, it's called Netflix, people. Come on. So we're at a stage now where it looks like, because of course the conference schedule starts on December 28th. And before I go any further, I do want to kind of tease something a little. We're going to have something a little special for the new year. So kind of stay tuned for that. You don't want to miss it. We kind of alluded to it on Twitter a little bit, but we'll have some more details about kind of how we're going to work the first podcast of the new year here coming up soon. And of course, we'll have a recap of all that first full weekend of conference games, which again starts on December 28th. And it looks like, to my surprise, the top two teams will actually be playing on Thursday the 28th. I'm sorry, Thursday the 28th. It's Friday the 28th because I have no concept of time. So the one, of course, is going to be it looks like it's going to be Northern Kentucky. Northern Kentucky is they're doing relatively well. A couple of games in there, kind of wish they would have won. The Cincinnati one was obviously kind of, I know Norse fans were looking to get that game and didn't quite come to fruition. And of course that heartbreaker to Eastern Kentucky. I know that's probably gonna stick in their craw a little bit, but regardless, they're doing a little better than they're doing infinitely better than they're doing better than the rest of the league. I mean, if you look at the schedule, if you look at the standings right now, everybody is like super under 500, including some very surprising school, including Wright State, which is one I'm really very surprised that they are under 500. But one team that is not under 500, and one team is actually has a relatively comparable, or will have a comparable record to Northern Kentucky, is the team that the Norse will be playing on Thursday, which is IUPUI. And as it turns out, apparently, for all the IUPUI jokes we've been making over the past year and a half, this is our payback.
Yep.
This is our payback.
Yep, a fanless team is.
You would be. You know what? I don't know. Apparently winning does kind of bring folks out of the woodwork, because I know when we as the podcast we tweet anything about IUPUI, that gets a lot of traffic from IUPUI folks that I didn't even know existed until recently.
Well, good for them.
Like, hey, welcome to the podcast. We'd love to hear from you, and I'm sure you're all sitting there saying, ha ha ha, payback's a bitch, ain't it, guys? Yeah, well,
but let's keep in mind they're a two-player team that has played a lot of Little Sisters of the war games.
And I will counterpoint the fact that a lot of the Horizon League teams have been playing Little Sisters of the poorer teams and not been doing as well.
But you know who hasn't?
Who is that?
My alma mater has not played one Little Sister of the poor because Mike Davis is a very loony man.
We'll get to that looniness over at Detroit Mercy in a minute. I know we talked a little bit about them Those back-to-back, we'll want to talk a little bit about that weird schedule from last, not necessarily the. We'll talk a little bit about kind of the last-minute loss to Ohio. Plus, I also want to kind of talk a little bit about a little bit about that weird scheduling, that weird back-to-back days scheduling thing. But the one thing that I'm looking at and I'm seeing is that this was supposed to be. And yeah, you're probably this week again. Probably not the we didn't talk a lot about IUPUI last week because of the fact that their team was IU Kokomo. This week, they started out the week with IU Northwest. For those of you, and as someone who frequents Northwest Indiana, I know exactly where that is, and that IUPUI beat them by 40-something points is not really a surprise. The Western, and of course they also beat Western Illinois as well. So the bottom line is that IUPUI is actually beating who they're supposed to be beating, and this is. And even beating some people they may not be supposed to be, because remember they got that win at the beginning of the season against Boston College, Whether how good Boston College is remains to be seen. Although I do believe that one of their wins this year was against Minnesota, but the bottom line is that IUPUI is actually because we all have complaints about mid-major scheduling. But if you're having a losing record against these non-conference teams, where can we complain? How should we? Why are we complaining about this? We got to get better first before we start complaining about who we play.
Absolutely.
We really do. And you can make the argument about the teams that about the teams that are your school schedules when they start winning 8 or 9 games in the non-conference, which IUPUI is, which Northern Kentucky is more than likely to do, and they're the only ones. Everybody else is at or below 500, and we'll stay there. I mean, this has been a pretty brutal non-conference for. If your hopes were to get and we're getting to a point where you're getting some of these bye games in, and those are there's a very low chance of getting those wins. Like for example, Green Bay went into Creighton, Big East team Creighton, good team Creighton, and he went in Michigan State, which is a top 10 team in the country. Those are tough games to win. Those are tough games to win with high major teams, and Oakland before they start the season have to go up against Xavier and Michigan State
and Georgia, who looks all right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You said
they played Xavier too.
They already played Xavier. I'm sorry. This is me paying. I'm glad you caught that one. I couldn't remember to save my life. But yeah, that's kind of the schedule. That's kind of the thing. So if you're looking at it from that standpoint, you're thinking to yourself, well, hey, we should be doing a lot better than we are, and we're not. And I'm struggling a little bit with this.
I think we're in a position where there are 3 or 4 teams in the league that are a year away from being very competitive, and I think. I don't know his name because I don't follow Wright State. You probably do. The sophomore that was really good for them as a freshman all year was really good in the tournament. I just looked. He hasn't played in like 6 games, so I don't know if he's hurt.
And that could be it too. I mean, but with in the case of Wright State though, that one's
they did beat Toledo, and Toledo is a very good MAC team.
Yeah, and after they beat Toledo, what happened after that?
They just lost to horrible teams.
Yeah, I mean, they just. It's been really that one is kind of a head scratcher to me, honestly. The Wright State one specifically is because they still regardless they still have or they should have first of all Loudon Love isn't going anywhere.
No.
Loudon Love is still around. And this is, and he's kind of the guy whose name everybody kicks. He's already, and Loudon Love is, and so that's kind of the guy. And then you kind of look at it from a standpoint of, how, and maybe it's because of the injury that's kind of taking a toll on them specifically. I'm not convinced. I'm not entirely convinced of that. But I mean, I guess better to get it straightened out now than before January.
Well, and the thing, if I'm Wright State, I'm worried about is the way they play. They will not have fun with U of D or Oakland. They're probably not going to have fun with UIC this year because, U of D's doing a lot of 4 out, 1 in. Oakland's doing a good amount of 4 out, 1 in again. Mm-hmm. Their ability to slash and create on the outside like they did and what they did in the NCAA tournament, what they did to win the league last year, it might not work this year. Where you look at a team like Northern Kentucky where all 5 of their starters averaged double digits. The last team that we had in the Horizon League that all 5 starters were averaging double digits, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it was the 2 U of D teams, the one that went to the NCAA, the one the year after that loss, and then Valpo's 2 really good teams they had in that time, right after that with Brokoff. And I know the Brokoff team that won in 2013, 6 players averaged double digits. So if Northern Kentucky keeps that double-digit stuff up, they should win the league. Drew McDonald's looked good for 4 years? All 4 years he's been playing.
And he's looking pretty good now.
I just question if Brennan can keep that group together because even though there's so many bad records, I feel like the top 5 or 6 in the conference this year is going to be really, really close. And it would not shock me if we see another surprise. I haven't really paid attention. Is Milwaukee even going to be able to threaten this year, or are they in the pit they've been living in?
Yeah, that they're not great.
Could Youngstown State get their spot in the tournament over them? Or
maybe, I don't know. It's Youngstown State finally won another Division I game, so progress.
I tell you what, Evan Brunsma's brother's on the Youngstown State staff, and he'll be.
Yes, Kevin Brunsma. Kevin, I believe, is a faithful listener to the podcast as well. So former Cleveland State assistant as well. So yeah.
I know I met him when he was visiting his brother once, and Ray McCallum Sr. told me, he goes, that guy's going to be a head coach eventually. I mean, he gets it. So, I know they have him on that staff down there, and they've recruited better than I think they did under Slocum so far.
I think they're big. It seems to me that the cohesiveness is still an issue because I think their big, from what it looks like, their big core at Youngstown State is Garrett Covington, Naz Bohannon, and then the freshman they brought in, Darius Quisenberry. There's a lot. He recruited a lot of. He actually signed a lot of JUCO guys. So that's going to be, and and a lot of the. So he's he's probably in the same. He's probably in a little further behind in this. His situation is a little further behind than maybe a Milwaukee or maybe a Cleveland State in just the sheer volume of people that he's kind of churned through over there, and it shows. I mean, I guess our hope was the progress at Youngstown State was going to go a little faster than it was. Just for purely selfish purposes, I need a rival, and I need my rival to not be bad. And we're not there yet.
No, I hope it comes around for them. They're always a fun team to play.
They've been such a maybe it's because they've been such a doormat for so long. And it's true, they have. I mean, Jerry Slocum did nothing with that team. I mean, he had They had that one really good player, Morse, from Flint. He had Cameron Morse. He had Quinn Humphrey. He had Kendrick Perry. And you want to talk about the annals of Horizon League stars over the years. Those are 3 guys that were really good, and I think the best any of them did was like 5th place in the conference. I think the best that Youngstown ever did was like a CBI or a CIT tournament. That's about as good as they've gotten. So, you're really hoping that you get to the point where where Cleveland State and the Youngstown State and the Milwaukee finally turn it around. I mean, but the reality is that all 3 of them happen to be current. All 3 of them right now sport the same record. All 3 of them are 4-8. And we can't really and it's. And even more, and you think about that, they're all 4-8, and you ask yourself, okay, they're all 4-8. What kind of you ask to the degree of which how are they 4-8? I mean, because remember last year when we started out remember last season when we started out the conference schedule, Youngstown State hadn't beaten a single solitary D1 team. Go in to the Wolstein Center on January 1st and beat Cleveland State after not beating any Division I team. So it's the record is. It's disappointing for all of these teams, but the question becomes is the team itself, is the record indicative of how good or how bad the team is going into the conference tournament? Because you're going to have, we probably won't see that for a little while. I mean, we may see that, in the first weekend when Cleveland State plays Detroit and Oakland. So, and vice versa, so too will Youngstown State.
Yeah, it's gonna. I'm kind of excited to see how this all pans out because I think there's going to be quite a few survivor surprises. It's probably I don't know if we can even consider it a surprise. I mean, the non-conference has started out so. The non-conference has been by and large so bad for the Horizon League. Yeah,
I would not be surprised if Detroit Mercy ends up as a top 4 spot. I wouldn't be surprised by that at this point. Maybe that's a really weird, really bad assumption on my part, but you know what? You know what?
Mike Davis is a crazy, crazy man.
Yeah.
I expect a top 4 seed. I really, and we'll talk about it a little bit later.
Well, why don't we might as well talk about it now because so Detroit and I mentioned this a couple episodes ago that Detroit has 3 more wins than I expected them to have this season in the non-conference. I didn't expect them to have any. I thought they were going to be, given how everything had started prior to everything had been going prior to Mike Davis getting hired. I was I was expecting the worst of the worst of the worst. And then Detroit Mercy turns around and, they win 3 games in a row, just right off the bat, including a Bowling Green team that wiped the floor with Green Bay for some reason.
Yeah, and they played Ohio close. They beat a good Eastern Michigan team.
Yeah. The Ohio game, the Ohio game, I did catch a little bit at the end of that, and that one was kind of painful because there you were, you guys, you had it. And
I didn't get to see what happened.
It kind of slipped away. Ohio was able to get the lead, and Detroit had one last shot. I think it was Curry who ended up taking the shot instead of Davis, and well, obviously it didn't fall. And also too, and that's not even to talk about. And also Kent State too. I think Detroit Mercy was up by about 7 in that game.
Yeah.
And I think Detroit Mercy may very well be in the same situation this year as Cleveland State was last year, where they had some games that they could have won, but just didn't. And Kent State's one of them. Ohio is one this year. The two games that I'm scratching my head over a little is that it was a couple of weeks ago. It was those back-to-back games between Dayton and Toledo. I'm kind of curious as to how those games ended up on back-to-back days when no other game did.
He wanted to go back-to-back. Davis said in tournament play we got to do that.
A lot of good that did him. They lost by what, 39 and 44.
And they were missing guys those games. He sat a few guys for grades, or for something. Davis is an odd bird, man. I haven't got to meet him yet. I'm hoping to get down there for the first conference games and get back into covering it.
That's going to be an interest. Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah,
he's a guy who takes a cold shower every morning. That's his thing.
Jesus.
He doesn't recruit on the road. He's a real healthy guy. And from everything everybody I know has said, he's a hard ass, and his players love him. He's smart, very smart. He doesn't sound smart because he's got a real thick Southern drawl, and he had a learning disability and a stutter when he was a kid. But he seems to know basketball. He's got a staff that can recruit Chicago really well. He's got his son's on there, recruiting for him. They're after a few JUCO kids to come in next year and hopefully help the cast they have coming back out. But, I mean, here's the thing with Detroit. He told everybody yesterday at the press conference he's going to an 8-man rotation. So you figure his son, AD, is going to be the point guard with McFauley next to him. McFauley's not doing bad this year. I mean, he's averaging 12 a game. He's got 30.
I think one of the best moves he made even before they announced his son was going to be coming up was he was able to get Josh McFauley talk Josh McFauley into staying. Whether he was on the fence of staying or not, just that symbolism of the fact that McFauley is still on the roster and still contributing is definitely when everybody else when all the rest of his a bunch of his teammates didn't.
Yeah, and Cole Long stayed, and he doesn't even fit the system.
Yeah.
And then Blackshear stayed, but, Gerald's been so banged up the last 2 years that he's kind of the guy we send out for the tip, and he tries, but I was talking to him the other day. He's been banged up. But that Curry kid we got, it's only been 2 games, but he's 14 points a game right now. He's a big man that can shoot threes. Big men that can shoot threes have been a dime a dozen in the Horizon League. So
yeah. So when you look at that and you look at kind of I guess we shouldn't have been surprised at all because if I'm not mistaken, when Mike Davis, I think it was the Texas Southern job. I think he didn't take that job until like August or something.
Yeah, and when everyone he was asking, well, when are you going to be ready? And he was always saying 2 months. And here we are 4 or 5 months in, and he's doing the thing. So
yeah, he really did. And yeah, I mean, we can't underestimate we can't underestimate the pedigree. The coaching ability of Mike Davis. We cannot underestimate it. I mean, here's a guy who was under an extraordinary amount of pressure to be the guy filling in the shoes of Bobby Knight.
Right.
I mean, even though those were his, even though that 2002 group of his, that 2002 Indiana team was obviously all Bobby Knight's players, still. They got to buy into what Mike Davis was selling. They had to do it, and that he translated that into a Final Four. So I mean, it's good to have. It's good that it's interesting that the Horizon League was as a whole, and this impacts the league as a whole, to be able to have a coach of that caliber to be able to join the ranks.
Yeah,
and it's just sheer good luck, really. I think that Detroit Mercy, especially considering nobody knew what the hell was going on over there.
No, I didn't.
Nobody had a clue what was going on. I mean, they were throwing names out that let's face it. Why they were throwing names out like I was about half tempted to say, well, also they were looking at Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster to coach. I mean, that's where they were.
I take full responsibility for the Pacino rumors.
I'm sorry, what now?
I take full responsibility.
Whoa! Time out. Wait a minute. What do you mean you take full responsibility?
Well, a few people I know in the lacrosse program, not the who I'm friends with, who wants me to go work for him there when I'm not coaching soccer. A few former lacrosse players that are still down there working had told me, "Hey, we really think they're going to bring in Patino. The rumor on campus is they're going to bring in Patino." So I tweeted it. Well, Tony Paul knows me.
Yeah.
I don't talk to Tony, but, we've sat next to each other and stuff. He sees me, hey, Carrick, how are you? He didn't DM me or anything. Well, he goes in the news.
Well, no, this is a different, I don't remember, honestly, I'll be honest with you, I actually don't remember your tweet. What I do remember is, Tony Paul, talking about it a little bit, and he also and what I also did see, and I also saw for whatever reason one of the Detroit Mercy boards, message boards, I can't remember which one, where this popped up too. You're not going to tell me you're that guy too, are you?
Which one? No, but With our message, people, if it's not me, Titan Mike, or the commissioner, I would not put any validation into it. We're really the only ones that, A, have connections still, or B, like the commissioner's on Fox News all the time, like talking. He's like a lawyer, and he is at the law school in Columbus. Not the Ohio State one, another one.
Okay.
He worked for Bush. So if he does his research, if it's...
anybody who's read the commissioner's stuff, the Horizon League previews he did were outstanding.
You guys got to try to get him on.
I know. He just finally got on Twitter too. I was so happy. I was so excited about that. I'm like, wow, like we're getting everybody on now.
Yeah, I can try to get him on for you. I haven't seen him since the Pittsburgh game right before Reggie died. I sent him in the suite, but man, he is a man that has not only lived a life, but he is one intelligent individual, and he can rattle stats off like top of his head.
Well, that's like the kind of guy. Yeah, we haven't gotten around to it yet, but that's definitely we're definitely we definitely want to get the commission on at some point in time. I know we were kicking it around. We kick around a bunch of names of people we want on. We want Tony Paul on too at some point. So Tony, if you're listening, DM us. We'll have you on one of these days. But yeah, so we have you to thank for the Patino. Okay, I didn't realize that. We have you to thank for that rumor. Okay.
Yep, I will officially take responsibility. Full responsibility. All right.
So, well, I mean, yeah, but it's amazing that absolutely nobody on the, that's it. It's amazing that in spite of the fact that you have Rick Pitino rumors and Lindsey Hunter rumors and Jermaine Jackson, who was, I thought everybody really thought was going to be the guy and wasn't.
Yeah.
And then, fast forward 2 months later and we still have no idea what's going on. For us to go to, potentially picking the Detroit Mercy's new head coach the way The Bachelor picks a suitorette to get to Mike Davis,
Yeah, crazy.
It's a pretty big deal. Now, obviously, wear and tear, I think, is... and we brought this up... I think we brought this up a couple episodes as well. The wear and tear may be an issue. That's going to be my big question. Because with Antoine Davis, he's putting up... He's playing 35 some odd minutes, 35 plus minutes a game.
Yep.
That's, after a certain point in time, you're going to run. I mean, I don't care how good you are, you're going to run out of gas.
Well, Mike Davis says he plans to go with 8 and knows 8 can handle it. So.
Okay. I mean,
we'll see.
So I guess that's his answer to our question. Are you guys going to run out of gas? Well, I'm playing 8. We'll find out soon enough.
Guys to watch in that possible 8-man rotation, though, that we haven't really seen a lot of. Lamar Hamrick. He's a JUCO guy, and he looks like he's a junior, so they got another year. He can shoot the three, a good defender, and then Chris Brandon, a guy that grew up with Anthony and him, and he's had some games where he's put up, 10, 15 points. One of those long, lanky 3 guys that Davis likes to play at the 4, so... there's other guys that could step up. It wouldn't surprise me, and it's not just that I'm a homer, but I think teams like Northern Kentucky that can go 5 deep, those are going to be the days where there's going to need to be supplementary scoring that's not from Anthony, and it's going to have to be guys like Josh, who's a senior, or, the King kid they got from Washington State, who's super hot
and that's going to be a big thing. I mean, it's going to be that whole next man up thing, which is, again, why I'm a little surprised that Wright State hasn't done as well as they have, because when you look at the Wright State roster, you've got Loudon Love, you got Cole Gentry, you got Mark Hughes, you got Parker Ernshausen, and you're still sub 500 right now.
Right.
So it's a bit of a surprise. I mean, and again, especially after you look at that convincing Toledo win. A Toledo team that is doing really well this year. In fact,
bold prediction: Toledo and Buffalo go to the dance.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, Buffalo is a top 25 ranked team right now, and
NATO, pride of Romulus High School.
Oh, jeez. But yeah, it's exactly. But Wright State beats a Toledo team that, again, as you mentioned, potential second MAC team coming out of potential MAC NCAA team. and then the wheels kind of fall off for them. So I think for them, I think the important thing for Wright State moving forward, I think their big test is, I think what they're going to really need to do, they're going to be playing Mississippi State. That one's not. I'm not sure how well Mississippi State, good Mississippi State is this year.
Probably not very good.
But they're going to be in Jackson. It's going to be. There might be a surprise in there, but I doubt it. I mean, the Morehead State game they got to win that one.
Oh yeah,
they got to win that one. They got to win that one, especially considering the fact that that's going to be, and that'll definitely be, that'll be, and again that'll be it. I mean, that's. I don't know, man. I think Wright State's going to end up be a below 500 team going into the conference right now, unless they pull a surprise out at Morehead State. And again, we talked about it. We've talked about it over the past couple of weeks of what exactly they started out pretty well. You mean aside from the fact that they lost to Murray State by nearly 20. And then just kind of the wheels fell off. And again, it's not that they don't have the players. I mean, you mentioned one of them that's not necessarily playing all that much, but you still, regardless, you still have that group, that you still have a pretty good core over there that should be doing, shouldn't be doing 5 and 6. I'll tell you that much.
Right.
Yeah, Green Bay is another one that I do. And again, in spite of the fact that Green Bay is, they've been going up against, again, this last week probably was kind of an outlier because of the competition they played. They played Michigan State. Honestly, going into that Michigan State game, I watched the game till about halftime, and I swear the way that Michigan State was playing, and the Spartans will, they'll be one of those top teams we're talking about in March. But they always are. It's frickin' Tom Izzo. Green Bay was able to keep it within, because they looked like they wanted to. Michigan State looked like they wanted to blow that game out. I mean, they were up by like 33 at one point in the second half, and that they were able to only lose by like 21 is probably a testament to the to the resilience of Green Bay to not want to get blown out of the gym.
Well, they're a well-coached team. They've been a well-coached team since they got there.
Yeah, and again, like I said, the two games, the Creighton and the Michigan State games are kind of outliers to me, at least. The Bowling Green game for them was an aberration. I don't understand what happened there. Especially after they went and beat Belmont. Belmont, who just beat UCLA, I might add. I don't know if UCLA blows, but
Yeah.
But Belmont has always been a pretty good team. So I mean, it's not like I'm that surprised. I was more surprised that Green Bay beat them. But regardless, I think. And again, in terms of what Green Bay has to offer, they do have still, they have that litany of scoring options.
Oh yeah.
Just as Northern Kentucky does, just as Wright State on paper at least does, just as theoretically UIC should. Although the 20-point loss to DePaul was nothing to really write home about. So when you look at that, and you kind of look, so then you kind of wonder, with that, where do you go for, does a team like Detroit, does a team like IUPUI, do they have do they have as many scoring options as these top teams do? I mean, I think we kind of. We obviously play up, in the case of IUPUI, we play up the fact that, they got a kid, Cameron Justice, on that team, the kid from Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Who is just absolute. I think Cameron Justice is probably the reason. Cameron Justice is absolutely the reason why IUPUI is where it is right now. Why we're having the conversation about them being being a top 2 team going into having a top 2 record going into the conference games. That's how good he is. And then and you don't really necessarily and you see that other places, and you're not really sure exactly. what's going on. Cleveland State has scoring options. They have scoring options. They have Tyree Appleby. They have Stefan Kenich. They have Cash Thomas is more of a distributor. I think their big problem is they're going to have to find that third or fourth option. They haven't gotten to that point yet. And I think Youngstown State, I think they're building for me, I think they're kind of building their whole thing around. They're definitely building their whole kind of scoring around Garrett Covington and Naz Bohannon and the freshmen they have in Darius Quisenberry. And as you mentioned on your end, at Detroit Mercy, you have Antoine Davis, obviously. You have McFauley. You have Curry. Oakland is going to be I think Oakland is going to still be a wild card to me.
I think they need one more year.
They've been a mystery to me the whole time. I don't know what Oakland were getting at any point in time, and I think that's going to be true for the rest of the season.
Well, and they have that huge freshman, and he hasn't even played yet.
Yeah,
I will say this. Next year, if XHM is playing like he's playing this year, and they can get James back going inside, and he's acting as like a big just stopper 3, or a stopper 5, with Cumberland, and then, the Braden Norris, that freshman, not to mention they have Newman, that's a really good 2-3 guy that can keep the 3 that's averaging 9.1 already. He's only going to get better, and he's sat out the last 2 years. They're going to have a nice core in that Trayvon Maddox out of Novi that they have. He hasn't really played a lot this year yet. He's played in 8 games. He could be a good 6-man for them, where you got a good Detroit team, you got a good Oakland team. I don't know what Northern Kentucky is going to have coming back next year. I know they lose 3 or 4 guys, but Brennan's a pretty good recruiter. And Adrian Nelson, that was a U of D commit to Bakari, that's there, that hasn't really played, was a very good player in Ohio last year.
And he was, and I believe he was. If I'm not mistaken, I know he's getting some big minutes. He's getting some good minutes for Northern Kentucky now. So he's probably going to be the foundation for them moving forward.
And Green Bay still has most of their guys next year, right?
Yes, they do. I think Green Bay is probably going to be one of the better teams in the conference next year. I still think they're going to be one of the better teams in the conference this year. I just think the overall schedule, the overall standings kind of belie what the conference is,
right? Which
is not as bad as they were last year.
No, not at all. I think it's much better this year.
It only seems like they're bad. You look at the records, they only seem like they're totally underperforming, and maybe they are. I don't know, but. Bottom line is they are. The bottom line is we'll find out. The real games. These were just the tune-up. The games that are going to matter are going to start coming up on the 28th, and so that's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to conference season. I think it's going to be a lot of parity, and I might actually make it down to the tournament this year.
However, I am a little concerned, and I said this last episode. I am a little concerned that we could end up with it. We can end up with a scenario where we end up with 7 out of the 10 teams with 500 conference records or below. I think that's a possibility. I mean, it's a very scary possibility to me.
I would say whoever goes to the dance is probably not going to have a very fun time.
No, they're not.
Not this year. Next year,
it's going to be it's not going to be a good time, and we've talked about it. I mean, we gotta. And that conference, and I'm sure as we've talked many times about the new conference tournament format and how supremely awful it is, and that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I'm sad Motor City Madness, didn't really pan out. I pretty much the only way it's going to be there next year is if U of D or Oakland are in the final group and we pack it out, or another team comes in and they pack it out, because I really thought it could have worked, and I think a neutral site tournament will work. It's just got to be centrally located.
Yeah.
It's got to be a place where everybody can get to and get a hotel. I think if you've got a team in Green Bay, that makes it tough for everybody. Well, I would like to see Grand Rapids, though. I think Grand Rapids would be the perfect
You are not alone in that assessment, by the way. I've never been, so I can't make a judgment about Grand Rapids.
The stuff you would need, like all the breweries and everything. Good eat. My little brother lives in Grand Rapids, so I'm out there to see him a lot. But
there you go.
All Founders is there. There's like 5 or 6 big. New Holland is right there. All the big breweries, they got a lot of good food. It's very artsy, very conservative kind of, and that Dick DeVos owns the whole town. So,
great!
They got Meyer Gardens is awesome. Meyer has like a huge botanical garden.
I understand outside. I believe that because Detroit's the Pistons G League team is in there. Is in Grand Rapids.
They play at Grand Andal, which is where the Griffins play.
Yeah,
but they also have just outside of Grand Rapids, they have another smaller hockey arena called the Deltaplex.
Interesting.
So you could have teams practicing there. And
we'll probably find out sooner rather than later when that whole thing is going to go down. Because I hope they don't wait until September like they did this year.
Is this nice. For sure it in Detroit?
What's that? Yeah, this is it. This year is it. Yep, this is it. They're seeking bids for 2020 and beyond. So the 1920 year will be the first year outside of Motor City Madness.
Do we have any clue who put a bid in?
No. We know nothing. Of course, we haven't really paying. I've been paying more attention to how badly everybody's doing in non-conference and where we're going to be playing, where everybody's going to be playing the conference tournament next year.
Very true.
So, all right. So that is going to. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Carrick, once again, very, very glad to have you on and filling in for Jimmy.
Always good.
All right, great. And of course, you can find all episodes of the Horizon Roundtable on sportshacks.com, HAX.com. You can find us at any one of your favorite podcast apps. You can find us on your Amazon Echo and your Google Home devices. And also, of course, you can find us on we're on Spotify, we're on iHeartRadio, and Sports Hacks puts it on YouTube. I mean, there's literally no reason why you can't listen to the show. So, again, we'll be this is going to be the last one before Christmas. So we wish everybody a happy Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year. So thanks for listening.